Coming at you live from America's podcast studio, Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. The landscape contractor and green industry platform for success. This is the Podscape, brought to you by LMN Software.
And welcome, everyone, to the Podscape. You got the Turf Teacher here. That's right. We're going to talk a little bit about Crepe Murder. The term is actually called Pollarding, and that is the biggest topic. I see it all over social media. I do, and it drives me absolutely crazy because we've got individuals out there, for one, that are doing it, that don't know how to do it correctly, and we've got the ones who are criticizing the ones who are doing it who don't know anything about pruning either. So you are going to get the Turf Teacher's take on pruning back crepe myrtles. Before we get started today, I want to give a big shout out to LMN Software because none of this would be possible without them. I've personally been using their software in my own company, and so far it's been a complete game changer for my business. LMN is the most comprehensive landscape business management software in the industry. From budgeting, estimating, CRM, time tracking, and so much more, it's a simple do-it tool for your landscape business and provides a platform to scale your company to the next level. And the best part about LMN is they have a free version, which you can begin using today if you choose to. Just visit golmn.com/free to learn more and start taking advantage of the software that's helped me grow my business into a successful, sustainable, and profitable company. That's golmn.com/free. golmn.com/free.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. Oh, yeah! Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together.
All right, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Now, guys, I want to give you a little update on the Podscape. I want to start bringing you the Podscape in the mornings. I know we'd started off hard and heavy in the month of February where we were doing our takes at 7 p.m. at night. I would like to go ahead and have them available for you first thing in the morning. That way it's 7 a.m., just kind of like I used to do the morning show with a local radio station dedicated to the green industry that I'm no longer with. I want to be able to bring you the morning information. So you got all day to listen to the Podscape. And we'll make an announcement on social media about that. But let's jump into Crepe Murder. And again, I don't like the word murder. You know, you're not killing the tree, first of all, and plus murder is just a horrible word. So let's use the correct terminology. Let's use the correct terminology here. You can pollard the tree, and some other shrubs and trees, you coppice. Those are the two main terms used when cutting back plants. So let's go ahead and look at the definition. Pollarding. To pollard something. Well, let's look at it here. Pollarding is the regular pruning back of main branches of a tree to the head of a main stem or trunk or to a short branch framework. Also, sometimes termed coppice or coppicing. What's the definition of coppicing? Let's look at that. Regular pruning back of trees or shrubs close to the ground level to stimulate growth of vigorous shoots. Now, these are two terms defined in a textbook that I use at the call. It's the Eyewitness Garden Handbooks, Pruning and Training. A very, very good book. Guys, I highly recommend that if you don't know much about pruning, there is some great YouTube videos out there. But more so, how about go to your local library or Barnes & Noble or one of your local bookstores and check out a book or purchase a book. There's nothing like reading and getting your own knowledge instead of watching a YouTube star who really does not know much about what they are doing when it comes to pruning. My take on that, guys, is there's a lot of individuals out there who are making wonderful YouTube videos and they're testing out products and they get this new hedge clipper that's been given to them because they have a high follower count. And next thing you know, they're out there, buzzing down everything and saying, man, what a great hedge trimmer we got right here. Guys, you're not in business unless you have one of these on the truck. That's the kind of individuals I'm talking about here, guys. These are also the same guys that are criticizing the ones who are cutting back crepe myrtles. Well, Eric, should we or should we not cut back crepe myrtles? Now, let's step back a minute and let's pretend we are a shop owner in a retail shopping center, and we have, issues of attracting customers. Let's say we were a restaurant. Let's say we were a restaurant. You know what happened here last year about this time? COVID was in full swing. People were getting scared to death, and they shut down the country. And you're a restaurant owner, and I'm taking, small mom and pop, not big franchise or whatever, local restaurant that we all eat at every day when we're out working. And COVID hits, and so we have to shut down except for takeout. Well, a lot of people driving by did not know that we were in the shopping center because our signage was blocked by some shrubs and some trees. Well, these trees happen to be crepe myrtles, Lagestromia indica, to be exact. Another thing I have issues with is people calling it crepe murder who don't even know the Latin name of a crepe myrtle. Lagestromia indica. Lagestromia indica natchez is probably one of the most popular crepe myrtles that is cut back hard due to its size and its speed of growth. It's going to grow fast, and it's going to get big, and it's going to cover people's signs. They're going to cover people's advertisement for their stores. So you're this shop owner that cooks hamburgers, hot dogs, hamburger steaks, just a good old country restaurant in a shopping center. And these crepe myrtles are blocking your signage. You're paying $3,000 a month to rent this place. It may even be upwards of $5,000 and $6,000 a month. Just depends on where you're at. Nobody can see your signage. So you ask your property manager, hey, can we cut those trees back there? They can't see my sign. I actually, am renting space on that signage out there, which is $1,000 a month, in addition to what I'm renting the store here for, and people can't see my signage. The property manager is going to call the landscape contractor, hence landscape contractor. Most individuals out there doing this type of work aren't even licensed, much less insured. So they call the landscaper and they say, hey, we'd like these crepe myrtles cut back because our tenants are paying for real estate out here to market their restaurants. And now with the COVID situation, all they're able to do is take out, so they want people to drive by and know that they are open for takeout. So the landscaper goes and they decide, to cut back the crepe myrtles or not cut back the crepe myrtles. You've got a big dilemma here. And I'll tell you, this happened to us a few years back when I was young, right out of college, and actually working for my parents. And it wasn't a shopping center. It was a Harris Teeter shopping center in a predominant neighborhood right across from a nice athletic park. And we were there cutting back the crepe myrtles. We did. We cut the crepe myrtles back in the parking lot for that reason. The individual could not see the signage when they were driving by or even driving through the parking lot. Matter of fact, they were some huge Lagestromia indica natchez. They were huge. Now, should we or should we not have cut them back? Well, being the educated person that I am, I talked to the property manager and said, look, it's not a great thing to do, but I understand why you're wanting to do it. Let us go in and thin them out and then cut back what we can on the tops, and opening them up, thinning them out, allowed some visual, a lot of visuality to look through those trees and then cut some of them back on top. And we did that. They were happy. The property manager was happy. The tenants renting out the leased space was happy. But I did try to convince them and say, hey, instead of cutting these crepe myrtles back, how about let us dig them out and go back with a smaller version. Don't go back with the Natchez. Go back with a smaller Crepe Myrtle. Well, we give them a price on that, and it was something that they couldn't do at the time. But it was something they were going to look at in the near future. But in the meantime, could we go ahead and cut back the Crepe Myrtles? I said, sure, we can do that. We can do that. Well, we were there cutting, doing our thing, and we weren't using chainsaws. We were actually using hand saws. We were using pruners for limbs that were less than 1 inch. We were doing it right. We were thinning them out, and then we were topping what we could or what we had to make the shops visible from the street. Well, I had a lady pull in. I mean, she pulled in there 100 miles an hour. 100 miles an hour. I mean, I thought she was going to hit us. We're sitting there by the truck, and she gets out, and she starts, I am a master gardener. I am a master gardener, and you are crepe murdering these beautiful trees. She was literally crying. Literally crying. And she was upset. She was mad, and she was mad. So old Eric, the turf teacher, he puts on his game. I said, look, ma'am, I will stop cutting back these crepe myrtles for one reason. And she says, what? I will do anything to get you to stop crepe murdering these trees. I said, go ahead and pay me exactly what our property manager was going to pay us to cut them back. If you give me that exact amount, we will stop right now. And we will, what? No, what are you talking about? I said, you said you would do anything for us to stop cutting these crepe myrtles. You don't know what you're doing. You're just a stupid landscaper that's doing this. I said, whoa, 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 whoa. I said, come here. And back in the day, guys, this was back in the days before of social media and before electronic devices. I mean, we were using Nextel radios back then to communicate with our crews. So I kept a nice portfolio in the truck. Nice leather-bound portfolio, pictures, drawings, whole 9 yards. I said, look, lady, I said, I'm a North Carolina registered landscape contractor. There's a big difference between being registered and licensed nowadays. The whole thing changed late 90s. But we were registered landscape contractors. I was also a certified plant professional. I was also a licensed pesticide applicator. Had an undergraduate in landscape architecture, working in graduate classes at the time. And I said, ma'am, I know exactly what I'm doing. I said, you're a master gardener, correct? You took a 6-week, 1 night a week course, and you think you're an expert at this. I said, these tenants here whose livelihood is based on them having customers see their signage, that's the reason we're cutting the crepe myrtles. I said, why don't you go and complain to the designer, to the landscape architect or civil engineer that actually did this planting design for the shopping center and chew them out. Because there's no way on earth that a Lagestromia indica Natchez should be planted in front of someone's signage. It shouldn't. They're paying real estate for that as well. High dollar fees. She didn't like that. She did not like me going off on her. But I said, before you get out of your car, and by the way, about run us over and start telling me that I don't know what I'm doing, I said, I have all the credentials in the world to be out here doing what I'm doing. Now, granted, maybe we shouldn't have been cutting back the crepe myrtles, but we thinned them out before we even touched the tops. We did it the correct way. There is no scientific evidence that cutting back crepe myrtles is going to kill the tree. Now, over time, yes, it may develop some disease. It does leave itself open for that. But the problem is, guys, we're planting these trees way too close and in areas that they don't need to be planted in. And so when your customer asks you to cut them back, what else are you going to do? You're going to cut them because it's all about getting a paycheck. The whole reason we're in business is to make money. And it really, really bugs me that I see people criticizing individuals out there cutting back the crepe myrtles because that's what their client wants them to do. If it ain't your tree, then shut up about it. If Mr. and Miss Smith want their crepe myrtles cut back and you don't cut them back, guess what's going to happen? You're going to get fired, and they're going to hire someone else who will do it. So my recommendation is educate your client. Educate your client. Tell them that you don't want to do it, but you will do it, and then just talk about the benefits of keeping the tree the height that they are. You got to sell them on the benefits. You're not going to sell them on the negativity. You're only going to sell somebody on the good aspects of whatever it is that you're doing. So me personally, if I plant crepe myrtles, me and my wife are getting ready to build a new house. We're going to landscape it to the T. I'm going to have crepe myrtles on it. I love crepe myrtles. I do. There's some municipalities that aren't even letting you plant them anymore because people are going to start topping them. But you can do what you want to do on your own property. That's what I don't understand. But I would never do it myself. My crepe myrtles would never be cut. But if a client asks me to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it straight up. And what really, really drives me crazy is your YouTube superstars out there who don't have one employee, who actually brag about that and say, I don't have an employee, so I don't have to have workers' comp, nor do I have general liability, but I'm an expert at getting 50,000 followers on Instagram. And that means I know what I'm doing when it comes to mowing grass and cutting back crepe myrtles. Don't do it. Don't cut back crepe myrtles. It's called Crepe Murder. And they do it, and they get all these views, and they get all these, accolades, and it just drives me crazy. But those are the same individuals that get out those gas-powered shears and go to town on some Ilex crenata compactus, who, by the way, are calling them boxwoods. Mr. and Miss Smith, let me cut them boxwoods back for you. I got these new shears that I got in the mail yesterday, or UPS dropped them off. I got them free because I got 50,000 followers on Instagram. That's right. That's right. I know what I'm doing. I'm an expert at these hedge clippers. Let me cut you boxwoods. And I love it. I love it when Miss Smith will say, you know what? Those aren't boxwoods. Those are Ilex crenata compactus, or those are Helleri hollies, and you're not going to use hedge clippers on my yard or any shrub that's in my yard. Hand pruning is where it's at, guys. Hand pruning. And even if you are asked to pollard or coppice one of the trees that is in someone's yard, do it by hand and do it the best way that you can. Because if you don't, someone else will. And do not listen to these big YouTube stars telling you that you can't cut back crepe myrtles. Guys, if you're interested in some pesticide credits, take a listen to this.
Eric the Turf Teacher Jones. Oh, yeah! Teaching you life lessons, business strategies, and leadership.
Let's grow together.
If you're needing irrigation, landscape, or pesticide credits, check out my website at turfteacher.com. Every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m., we host Turf Talk Tuesday for pesticide credits and have online courses for both irrigation and landscape contractors. There are also several opportunities to get your credits at one of our seminars that we do throughout the southeastern United States and information on our Christmas lighting course. Check it out again at turfteacher.com. Okay, so you can see that Crepe Murder hits a nerve with me. It really does. It really does. So I completely understand why tenants want the crepe myrtles cut back, and I can understand why people do get mad with, the butchering of crepe myrtles, because there is a proper way to do it, and that's what I don't understand. People don't know how to prune. That is a big, big void in the green industry is people that know how to correctly prune. We should not be using hedge clippers at all on any type of holly. The only time we should use a hedge clipper, guys, is if we are pruning boxwoods. Those are the ones that tend to take it better. Or if we're doing it for topiary reasons, meaning that we are shearing the plants into forms that they don't naturally grow in. Some plants just tend to do better with that. But I'm seeing people take hedge clippers to Leland cypress. Well, they're getting too big up against the house. Why in the world are they planted up against the house in the first place? That's the problem. Improper pruning starts with planting the incorrect plant in the situation that it's in. Know your plants. It all begins with, one, being able to correctly identify the plant. Know the Latin name. Know the common name. Well, why do I need to know both, Eric? Well, because if you're in North Carolina, where we're at, the common name might be different for that plant down in Texas. We have to know the plants we're dealing with. Like I said, the individuals out there that are complaining about crepe murdering, these YouTube stars saying, don't do it. They're the first ones to go and get the hedge clippers off the back of the truck and crank the things up and just go to town on some people's hollies. It shouldn't be done that way. The only time that we've ever used hedge clippers is if we are in a row of plants that's planted for a border. And I'd say Dwarf Burfords, Burfordi, or even Nellie Stevens. And that's because they're planted root ball to root ball, and we're trying to create this green wall of mass to either block out roads, to block out parking lots, and if it's just too time-consuming to do it by hand. There are some shrubs and trees that you can do that on, but 99% of them you can't. It's all dependent on how they were planted and what they were intended on being. I don't like every plant in my foundation looking like a basketball because somebody's got a hedge clipper off and butchered them. No. So please learn your plant. Please learn the biology of the plant. I guarantee you right now, there are people out there using hedge clippers on azaleas. Well, Eric, my homeowner wanted them cut. Well, if they wanted them cut, I guess you had to cut them. But you as a horticulturalist or green industry expert, you should have said, Ms. Smith, how about wait until they bloom? Oh, they're getting ready to bloom? Yes, these are azaleas. Don't you remember last year? Darn, you're right. Holy cow. Because I guarantee you, if you prune them, they're going to be calling you in a few weeks and being like, why aren't my azaleas blooming? What have you done to them? You cut them. Well, yes, you asked me to, Miss Smith. You've destroyed my azaleas. My grandmother gave me those. And they're not blooming this year. My husband's sick and dying. He won't even be able to see them. He won't be around next year to see them bloom. These are all the issues that we run into when it comes to people's plants. People are picky about their plants. That's why you, the green industry professional, has to be knowledgeable in the plants. You got to know the names, the botanical names, the biology, their growth habitats, why they shouldn't be planted there in the first place, or why they should be planted there. Whether they like sun, full sun, shade, if they like wet feet, or are they best planted in a xeriscaping garden? That's the information that we need to know, and that's the information that we need to spill out to our customers. So let's go back to this pollarding a little bit. Let's go back to the pollarding a little bit, the cutting back of crepe myrtles. I heard Dr. Williams talk about this years ago. I took one of his pesticide recertification courses, and he's the one that told me, he said, Eric, there's no scientific evidence that it hurts the crepe myrtles. It's not. For one, people are going to change out their landscapes long before that tree dies from it anyway. You mean crepe myrtles we've dug out and cut back because people wanted a new landscape? They get tired of the same stuff. Why would they do that? Why would they cut back a tree that they paid, $300 for 10 years ago? Well, why do people sell cars that they pay $50,000? 5 years ago, why do they trade them in and lose money and stuff on them? Just people get tired of it, so they're going to change it out. But pollarding, it started back in the old days. In the old days, before power, before internet, before running water. Our ancestors started this because it was beneficial to the home. Well, what do you mean by that, beneficial to the home? All right, think about it. Let's say you lived in a house that didn't have power. What does that also mean? Well, that means you don't have heating and air conditioning because there's no power. So how do you heat and cool your house? One, firewood, yes. How do you cool it? Shade. So people back in the day, they did plant trees closer to the home. Deciduous trees, as a matter of fact. And they would pollard these trees. Well, that's not right. Eric, why were they doing? The reason they didn't do it, because there was no YouTube star out there telling them that they shouldn't. They couldn't watch it on their phone. So they were messing these trees up. No, they could care less about that. The reason they were pollarding the trees was, for one, think about it. They built their house out of brick, mud bricks and everything else. So they planted deciduous trees real close to the house. When they pollarded these trees the first time, they had extra firewood. They were able to burn that firewood in their house. It warmed the house up. Well, when you also pollard a tree like that, whether it's the crepe myrtle, whether it's any type of tree that they used, you have this flush of growth that comes out, which created dense shade in the summertime. So it was actually keeping that house a lot cooler during the hot summer months. And then when the winter came back around again, they had that extra firewood to burn in their stove. And when they cut back the trees, they not only used it for firewood, opening up those trees allowed the sunlight to warm up those clay bricks that they were handmade. They were able to actually warm their house. Sunlight penetrated through the trees because they were pollarded, warmed the house up. They cut back the firewood where all this new flush of growth busted out. And they had the extra firewood. Or they had the new growth that was able to get the fires started a lot easier. So our ancestors back in Europe, they did this quite a bit. And it kind of was passed down through history. And over at Wake Forest University, I'm a Demon Deacon. I love them Demon Deacon football and basketball. At their Renolda Gardens, their historic Renolda Village, they actually pollard some trees there coming in the main entrance. And it's taught for a history lesson. For that same reason, people pollarded the trees back in the old days so that they would have firewood. So that's the history of cutting back trees. Now, granted, we see people murder the trees all the time. We see it happen to willow oaks, white oaks, and a lot of trees that don't need it done to them. But cutting back the crepe myrtles is not as bad as you think it is. And so when you see one of your green industry colleagues doing it and they post pictures about it, don't chew them out. They're needing the work. They're making their customer happy because if they don't, someone else will. But if they are butchering them and actually, I'm talking about taking chainsaws to them, that's what you can talk about. Instead of criticizing them for cutting them back, how about criticize them for using a chainsaw or hedge clippers? How about say, hey, let's get a handsaw, let's get a hand pruners, let's get some loppers, and let's do this the correct way. And if you do it the correct way, not every year, but let's say every 2 to 3 years, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Just don't let those knots build up on the end of the branches or the trunks. And leave some height for the crepe myrtles. Now, you will see them bloom a whole lot better when they are cut back like that. That is another reason that people either coppice or pollard a tree. They're going to do it for more vibrant blooms, more beautiful leaves. A lot of trees, when the juvenile leaves pop out, are more beautiful, so they cut them back so that they're always developing these juvenile leaves. Or it may make the leaves grow bigger because the plant is grown for its foliage in the first place. So when they pollard them back or coppice them back, it's going to make the leaves a lot bigger. And it becomes a centerpiece. It becomes a focal point in the landscape. When people coppice a plant, such as like a Cornus alba, they do this for the color of the bark or the color of the trunks and twigs. Remember yellow twig dogwoods, red twig dogwoods? People cut those back. Because that new flush of growth is what's on fire. That's the most colorful part, is the new growth. So that's why people do it. There is a history lesson to it, but don't forget there is a correct and incorrect way to do it. And it all starts with knowing your plants. So don't criticize. Please don't. And don't listen to these YouTube stars saying do it or don't do it unless they're doing it the correct way. Guys, thank you so much for listening to the Podscape. And don't forget that we will start Wednesday morning, tomorrow morning, Wednesday morning, March 3rd, you will have your first morning episode, and we will bring them to you live every single morning at 7 a.m. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next lecture. For more landscape business expert advice, check out golmn.com/blog. And once again, a massive shout out to LMN Software for sponsoring this podcast and making it all happen. LMN is the most comprehensive landscape business management software in the industry. From budgeting, estimating, customer relationship management, time tracking, and so much more, it's the true do-it-all tool for your landscape business and provides a platform to scale your company to the next level. And the best part about LMN is that they have a free version which you can use today if you choose to. Just visit golmn.com/free to learn more and start taking advantage of the software that's helped me grow my business into a successful, sustainable, and profitable company. That's golmn.com/free. And thanks again, everyone, and I'll see you in the next lecture. And that wraps up this episode of the Podscape. Thank you so much for joining us here, guys. I love each and every one of you. Life lessons and landscape lectures brought to you by the Turf Teacher and LMN Software. We'll see you in the next episode. Turf Teacher out.